Welcome to this quick tutorial. I'm going to show you how to work the first 3 rounds of my Tunisian oval placemat pattern. These first rounds are a bit fiddly, but I promise the pattern becomes so easy after that. Start by chaining 27. This video does assume that you're familiar with the basic techniques of Tunisian crochet, so I'm going to quickly breeze by that. Do make sure you count your 27 chains carefully, as early in the pattern it is important that you keep your stitch counts accurate. Now I've finished the chain 27. Next I need to identify the second back bump from the hook. Now into that back bump I'm going to create 4 stitches. First by doing a simple Tunisian crochet, then a yarn over, and a second Tunisian simple crochet into that same back bump. And as you can see, with the yarn over and the 2 simples, that creates 4 stitches into that second bump from the hook. The next step is to do 24 simple Tunisian crochets all the way down the line, which I've mostly skipped over. Here I am at the end. I have 2 bumps left, which means that I've done 23 Tunisian simple crochets, so I do my 24th. Now I need to create another 4 stitches into that last back bump, so I do that by yarning over, simple Tunisian stitch, yarn over again, and do a second simple Tunisian stitch into that same back bump. In this way, I have created 4 stitches on either end, which constitute the semicircles of my oval. At this point, I need to introduce the return pass. So I flip my hook around and introduce a second color, lightly contrasting preferably. Pull through 1 loop on your hook and then pull through 2. This is the standard Tunisian return pass. The only time you will ever only pull through 1 loop on the hook is for that very first stitch. For the rest of the pattern, always yarn over and pull through 2. So yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2 all the way across until you have just a few stitches on your hook. This is what allows you to bump the stitches off the hook so that you can go around in a circle using a straight hook. Next, the pattern says to simple Tunisian stitch 24 along the other side of the starting chain. Remember that when we did the other side, we worked into the back bumps, so that leaves us with the 2 arms of the V on the other side of the chain to work under for these 24 simple stitches. I want to show you something quickly using a different project because I had made a mistake in the earlier video. Here we have the very first chain with the slip knot attached and the yarn tail. In the previous video I had you work under that, but you're actually going to want to skip that one. And if you've tried to do that, you'll see why. You can't use that to create that first stitch. So go to the second chain, work under both loops. So starting in that second chain and working under both loops, pick up exactly 24 simple stitches along the other side of that chain. Once you've completed 24 stitches, that brings us to the end of the round, and we're ready to begin working the increases into the end of our oval. In my opinion, this is the part of the pattern that gets confusing, and it's the whole reason I made this video. Take a minute now to identify what you have. You should have 4 vertical bars constituting your semicircle. Here's the first one, there's the second, there's the third, and right above my thumb is the 4th one. So we're going to start by working increases into the return pass chain, which is the light purple. Now off camera I've already worked the first simple stitch into the first vertical bar, so I'm jumping right to the first increase. Simple stitch into the next vertical bar. Just pull it apart with your fingernails because it's hard to see and things can be tight. Work another increase. Do a simple stitch into the next vertical bar. Very slowly. Work another increase into the return pass chain, and then finally do another simple stitch into the final vertical bar. Oh, I don't like that. It kind of overlapped. Let's try that again. Another simple stitch into the final vertical bar. Now we have to work a return pass in order to bump some stitches off. Here I wanted to just use a different project to show you those stitches a little more clearly. With this thicker yarn, it's a little easier to see the first, second, third, and fourth vertical bars of your semicircle. And so here I am working into those. Work into the first bar first. Work an increase into the chain. Work your second vertical bar. Another increase. Work the third vertical bar, which is always a bit tight because of the way we've created these stitches. And then another increase. And finally, the last vertical bar of our semicircle. So we've increased a total of 4 times and we've worked all 4 of those stitches. Now I've worked the return pass off camera to bump all of those pesky stitches off the hook so that we can finish up with a straightaway. Now the pattern says to work 24 Tunisian simple stitches. So make sure you don't skip the first one and work your way down the line, doing a simple stitch into each vertical bar. I'll zoom through that fairly quickly. Here I am approximately at the end of that straight stretch. I'm going to pretend that I didn't accurately count those 24 Tunisian simple stitches and show you a trick for figuring out where I am. You see right above my thumb is a stitch that has a little bump. It looks like a purl bump at the end of it. That is always the third stitch of your semicircle. So then we can figure out where the second and the first stitch are of our semicircle, and that tells us where we are. Here's a better picture of that bump. That is always the third stitch of your semicircle because of the way it was created using the yarn overs in the first round. So now we know that this in fact is the 24th stitch of our straightaway stretch. So then we start by working an increase as the pattern states, working into the first stitch of the semicircle, another increase, now a simple stitch into the second, and you'll notice, do another increase first, just pull that apart so that you can get in there. Fingernails are often required. You'll notice that the third stitch that has that bump at the base of it is always very tight. And it just helps you place yourself within the pattern so that you know, because these early rounds, it is important to place the increases correctly around the semicircle. So there's the fourth Tunisian simple stitch for your semicircle, and it's always a good time to take a break and work a back pass or a return pass so that you can get around that curve and get into your straightaway. So as we did on the other side, the straightaway consists of 24 simple stitches. And I'm going to fly through this, and this brings you to the end of the third round of the pattern, and I think after that things become much more straightforward as the semicircles are larger and much easier to work, much easier to find your stitches. If you look carefully here, you can see me skipping a stitch. I make a mistake. There, see, I just skipped that stitch, so don't do that. You'll see that the curling here is pretty annoying. That goes away after a few rounds. You'll find that working Tunisian crochet in the round completely eliminates any of that tendency to curl, which helps your placemats lie flat, and it makes it easier to work through the project as you go. So that does go away, probably on the next round. And here we are getting to the end. Once you've done 24, then I would place a marker on that 24th stitch. That marks the end of the round, and then you know you're ready to start the next round. I hope that helps. It gets a lot easier. It really is fun to work this pattern. Thank you for watching.